Hi, in this video I'm going to be demonstrating my clinical photo workflow and how I share those photos with my patients either on the iPad or on the TV, and I'm also going to be sharing the other benefits that I found of having a TV in the surgery. This follows on from previous videos in which I've talked about transferring your photos wirelessly from the iPad or from the camera onto the iPad and signing consent forms on the iPad. If you want to find out more about those things, then go to my blog and you'll find those other videos there. So firstly, let's show you the equipment that I've got. This is my camera. I've talked about that in more detail previously, but in it I've got a Wi-Fi Flash Air SD card, which allows me to take photos and quickly put them on the iPad. This is the iPad itself, which is an iPad Pro. Any iPad will work just fine. And I use that for handling, storing all of my photos. And then this is the TV. It's a standard smart TV, about 50 inches, and attached to that is an Apple TV box, which allows you to have different apps, very much like you have on the iPhone or the iPad, where you can control different parts of the TV or access different content. So I'm going to show you the Apple TV apps first, and then I'll go on to show you about using the iPad with that. So this is the main home screen, and these are the three main apps that I use most of the time. So we've got Slides, which is for slideshows. You've got Beautiful Earth, and you've got Atmo. So I'll show you Slides first. This allows you to create your own slideshow of different photos or indeed videos that you can then share with your patients. Could be useful in the surgery, also could be really useful in a waiting room if you've got a TV there. So I'll just go on to show you the slideshow that runs most of the time in my surgery. It's this one here. So this is a mixture of before and after shots from cases that I've treated, and in between those before and afters are different messages for patients to make them either be more aware of what we're doing here or spark an interest hopefully in improving oral hygiene or diet, things like that. And I found it to actually be really quite good at sparking that interest and at starting conversations about whitening or different things like that. And if a patient does say, "Oh, actually, tell me a bit more about whitening," I've got quick, easy access to a number of photos we can look at. So, for instance, I could jump to this one here, which shows a couple of cases where we've done whitening. So that's just a whitening case on that side. This is a case with whitening and some veneers. So it's quite a good way to have quick access to the main photos in your previous cases that you might want to look at. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about with slides? You'll see that on a lot of the photos I've added the words before and after. I've done that because to us it might seem quite obvious that they're before and after photos, but it seems to a lot of patients they don't seem to make that connection all the time. So before I had those before and after photos on, I'd regularly find some patients think that they were seeing their own teeth up on here, even though we'd never actually taken photos for them in the past. Another feature that I found recently with this app is the ability to have videos. So I've now got a number of videos that I can access on here, and they're the videos that I've had on the iPad and I've found in different areas. But I think for some patients it's got more impact when you're seeing it on the TV in this side. So for instance, I think for some children, having brushing animations probably is going to catch their attention more on the TV than it would for me just showing them with a model. Because I used to find that with a model, young children particularly would just switch off and look away, whereas if they've got the TV here, it's probably going to keep them looking at that. Right then, so there may be times when a patient doesn't want photos of teeth shown on this scale to them, and so for those patients we've got some of the other apps. So down here we've got the Beautiful Earth and the Atmo app. So for children, if I don't think they're going to want to see other teeth, I might, for instance, have this one, which is a nice fish tank aquarium scene. Other alternative is a nice relaxing river morning scene. So I have had a couple of adults who are very nervous patients who really like to have this before treatment rather than having the slideshow, and that's perfectly fine. And the other thing that I use for nervous patients is this one here, which is a collection of aerial shots from around the world, just showing really beautiful scenes really, and it's just something else to look at, particularly when you're curing composite. It can be quite nice to have something like that going on in the background rather than just a blank wall to look at. So, now I'll show you how you can show photos of a patient's own teeth to them using the TV. So what you do is you take the photos with your camera, transfer them to the iPad like I've talked about in previous videos, and then all you do is when you've got the photo there, you swipe up, go to screen mirroring, and you select your TV that you're connecting to, and there you have it. So this is a case that I saw recently. It's a gentleman who came in to discuss his potential options, and I found that having photos of his teeth in this scale really made it a lot easier for me to show what we can see and what we can do. And it's particularly looking at upper central incisors that he didn't like. So we took photos, showed it with the scale, and really discussed at length what he wanted to achieve, and we're going from there. The other times when I think this is really useful is when you've got some patients that don't really seem to want to accept that the problems they've got in their mouth and that they probably should do something about it. So for instance, this is a lady that I saw again a few months ago with some really heavily broken down teeth that really aren't doing very well. And initially she was quite reluctant to do anything because they weren't obviously hurting her, but you can see that they're really failing quite badly. So again, I took photos, showed her at this scale, and with no pressure at all, she was happily accepting of the fact that they're just not working. And we booked some appointments to start to improve the reliability of her mouth, reduce her chances of infection, and we're going to be taking some of those teeth out. So, as you can see, I think that having a TV in the surgery can be really quite useful, both in terms of documenting what you're doing, showing to other patients what you have done in the past, improving your chances of doing some more interesting dentistry, making patients more interested in looking after their own teeth, or at the very least just making it a nicer place to be for you and for your patients. So I would probably say that it's something that I would strongly recommend other people consider. If you're going out in the January sales, maybe have a look at whether you can get a cheap TV and how that could work for you. Obviously it's tax deductible, which is a nice thing. Yeah, I hope you found that interesting. If you want to know more about this or other ideas, then I'd be grateful if you had a look at my blog, which is www.drchrisharper.co.uk. If you have any questions, please let me know. All the best.